Welcome back to the Cannabis Podcast. Appreciate you all being here. Again, we have joining us Phillip James Latham from Philosophies. How we doing, man? And we'll just get right into it. So, how you doing? And cue us right up.
I'm good, bro. Lots been going on. Sorry, I know we've been like trying to make this happen for a while now, so I apologize and I thank you for your patience. And I'm excited to, get to talk to you again as a homie, but also just to kind of parse through all of the absolute nuttiness that's been going on for the past, I don't know, couple months since we last connected.
hmm Yeah, and it's obviously I'm not going to talk about it here, but the last 48 hours or so has been pretty crazy. So just nothing but well wishes for everybody all around the world, unless you're an asshole. So,
Amen.
I just want to start with telling everybody to hit the like and subscribe button. Appreciate it. Helps the algorithms and all the good technological nonsense. All right, dude. Let's get started. Everybody's talking about Trump possibly rescheduling, descheduling, changing marijuana stuff. What do you think? And is there an article or something we can start off on?
Um, First of all, I would be so stoked. I think the first time around when we did a couple of these episodes when Trump was in office the first time, both of us were like, obviously willing to like call him out and, say, hey, what you're doing is not great. But then like, trying to reunify the Korean Peninsula and stuff like that, you're like, okay, I gotta give credit where credit's due sometimes. Like if dude could accomplish some geopolitical stuff like that, those are things that warrant, maybe not praise, but like at least recognition of like that seems like it's a step in the positive direction rather than like the absolute goose stepping it seems the rest of the world wants to make towards World War III. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So all that said, yeah, I think there's definitely some stuff that we could talk about. Um, so I think you actually were the one we were just chatting a little bit ago, that was talking about this. I actually didn't even know this at the time. I was like, wait, what? He's like, yeah, the UN's actually already rescheduled it because obviously we were talking about Trump rescheduling. And then you shared this piece of information with me, and I'll kind of let you elaborate a little bit further because I think where you went with the correspondence between this and what Trump could potentially be doing is a very key point to make.
So, for everybody watching or listening, the United Nations and World Health Organization are the same thing, basically. World Health Organization is just the medical body of the United Nations. And so when Donald Trump says he's thinking about reclassifying from Schedule 1 to Schedule 3, the United Nations World Health Organization has already done that. Officially, they did it 4 or 5 years ago, during the Biden administration after the first Trump administration. The first Trump administration was very hawkish on cannabis with Jeff Sessions, the Attorney General, and then he was fired or let go or whatever happened there. And then cannabis was just never an option with that. Traditionally Republicans, when they get in, it's like not cannabis isn't an issue. But as soon as Biden won and took office, the World Health Organization, United Nations, interestingly, around 2020, 2021, and that whole CVID era, with a lot of news going on where this would have made huge headlines, had there been nothing else going on. This is like, wait, after 50, 60, 70 years, they did what? And it just was like, no one knows, even in the cannabis world, yourself, myself, and they don't know. And so the whole question is, okay, if the United Nations and World Health Organization has already done this, what are we waiting for? What's anybody else waiting for?
Right. Yeah, no,
So,
absolutely. But I think the salient point that I was trying to get at was the whole Schedule 3 aspect of it because obviously, cannabis being a perpetual Schedule 1, you know, narcotic is completely contradictory to the efficacy it has both medically and therapeutically and all the different applications that it could have, kind of across someone's life, let alone the utility of the plant as a, commodity product, reshaping multiple industries. I digress. But yeah, no, when you were starting to talk about Schedule 3, you sent this over to me and I was like, oh, snap. Because I think the definition of what a Schedule 3 substance can whatever the fuck I'm trying to say, whatever that means for it is
Yeah,
important. So you
the
can elaborate on that
definition
again.
and all
Yeah, there
that.
you go.
The
That's
and
the word I
that
was
that
looking for. Definition.
well, it seems like, almost it seems like they're doing like a PSA, really. What they're doing
Hmm.
right now is, hey, listen, we're going to do this. And it seems like they do this for a lot of other things too, not just cannabis, but cannabis is this podcast. Um, so they know what they're going to do and probably when they're going to do it, but before they have to prepare the public for what they're going to do. So they start giving out information, science, data, and then during that time, you're going to have the people that don't want it to happen put out contradictory science and data, which is also interesting that just recently, and you sent me this article, and I saw it about fertility, and I thought that was fascinating because those are going to be studies that are absolutely necessary, and for men and women, um, and anybody that can reproduce, um, so I guess that's the best way to put it.
Yeah.
But it seems like, RFK Jr. he put out a elaborate, step-by-step plan what he wanted to do with cannabis, which is not at all what the Trump administration is going to do, I don't think. Um,
Hmm.
but they probably will go to Schedule 3, um, just like you said, because that now, I mean, they're not going to not do what the World Health Organization and United Nations have already done. They're not going to take it a step further. They're not going to be like, oh, it's legal for recreational use and all that kind of stuff. Where, in
Hmm.
my opinion, like if you're just, this isn't, I'm just reading the Constitution, like all the kind of American stuff. This isn't Brett's. This is just my deductive reasoning. Like if you legalized it for medical reasons, which would hopefully essentially decriminalize it across the board, then you leave the states up to do it recreationally if they want to, which in my opinion, that's the way, if Iowa doesn't want to legalize cannabis, they don't have to. Just like Slovenia. If Slovenia doesn't want to legalize cannabis, they don't have to,
Hmm.
just because California and Colorado are raking in billions and billions and billions of dollars in tax revenue, although Colorado has a little bit more to show for it than California does. Um,
We'll get into that later.
seems to be a green hole in California's floor. Um, but, states can do whatever they want.
It's
Austin,
also, go ahead.
I was going to say Austin decriminalized it, but Texas is like, no, you know?
Right. Yeah, no, I think the whole decriminalization aspect of it, rescheduling is really interesting because, not only for what it would mean in terms of like this, well, okay, I back up. First of all, federal government has been infringing on states' rights, is trampling on them
Human
like
rights.
left and right. Well, yeah, let alone human rights.
States
Um,
aren't I just say humans because it's more like, you know,
yeah,
it's on us
it's true.
ultimately. It's a human violation, even though it's going through the state.
For sure, for sure. And it was funny, I was listening to something last night that was talking about like literally the only purpose for lawyers is to go to Washington, D.C. to make bu more bureaucracy for more lawyers to have jobs. I was
Yeah.
like, if that's not the most like real take on like what
And
what
it's just like
law
college.
is
I went
and
to college,
yeah.
but it's just like college. Like,
Hmm.
in order to teach college, you have to get a master's from college.
Right, right, right.
You know?
Like, the papers to do anything and like the approval process is like it's kind of crazy. And like I think that's I mean, I'll speak for myself, but that's part of the whole reason that I even got like heavier into this subject because I was like, what is so wrong with this plant? And like, smoked a couple joints, some blunts, and this and that, but never like, did a deep dive until I was like out of college. I had just graduated and did my whole like, whoa, this is so insane. Like, why is it illegal? Oh my God, it's been used for thousands of years, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. To then, motivating me to come out to California. Um, so I guess we can hop over one thing because that's kind of a segue back
Yeah.
to what you were talking about earlier. Um, So this is interesting that California cannabis. So comes from MJ Biz Daily, September 11th, 25. California cannabis tax cut inches forward as state industry lags behind. I was like, oh dang, like great. They're gonna cut the tax percentage on the legal industry because as many people would know that have been
It's
in
not a
this
tax
state
cut.
or well, potentially it is. But
We'll
it goes
see.
down
Right.
but it goes down to 15%, which is still higher than
Well, at least
other
it
states
freezes them. At least it freezes them for 5 years.
until 28. Yeah. Um okay, so article starts off push to cut the
Oh,
unpopular
next
tax
administration.
right. Uh
Sorry.
a push to cut the unpopular tax hike on California cannabis that went into effect in July is moving forward in the state legislature. If signed by Governor Newsom, Assembly Bill 564 would see the 19% state excise tax on cannabis products revert back to 15% on October 1st. So it's like a 4% tax cut. But then, as you get kind of further down into it, it says AB 564 would see the 15% excise tax rate locked until at least May 1st, 2028. So, it gives it a hold, sure, but it's still way higher than other places. Uh, so then, yeah,
Well,
skip
that's
down
also
here.
too, people like we look at it like, oh, it's locked in, it can't go up, which means it also can't go down.
Exactly. That was my
So,
point. It's like,
so just
okay,
like just
cool.
because they say in a headline, oh, the tax rate's locked in, can't go higher, it also can't go lower, so
Absolutely. So this is to me the most interesting part of this article was the last paragraph or the last couple like sections. California per capita legal marijuana sales trail Michigan and Missouri. California has just half the cannabis sales per capita of other states with lower taxes. Oregon, Michigan, and Missouri, according to a statement from Haney's office in the bill's legislative package. Annual sales totaled about $4.1 billion in 2024, according to the state data. That's in California. It's estimated, this is my favorite part, that only 40% of the cannabis consumed in California is purchased from retail dispensaries. So that is a telling statistic on top of the telling statistic that only 20% of the total cannabis produced in the state is actually consumed in the state.
well, it's just li like this isn't speculation. This is me, my visual eyes. So I've worked in a smoke shop here that sells hemp, THCA, all that kind of stuff. Um, and some of the packaging has the Prop 65 logo warning.
Hmm. Hmm.
The Prop 65 logo warning is only in California,
I don't know that.
only in California, meaning it's from California.
Hmm.
So now whether it's legal weed, tested weed in California, all that, I don't know because somebody the other day comes up to me and goes, "Bro, check out this THCA flower. It's great." And I go, "Okay, where's it? Let me scan the barcode." He goes, "Oh, the guy said the barcode will work in a minute." I go, "Bro," I go, "You just what? You just
Just get off a
what
truck.
if you
There's a
looked in
guy
the back
selling
of a
this to you out of his van.
right, like if you looked at the back of a food thing and it said, nutritional ingredients coming soon,
Yeah,
like would you still consume
exactly.
it? Like I don't get it. Why don't we? That's the thing I get annoyed at cannabis consumers about is that, on one hand they'll vape the shittiest shit and then go buy organic chicken. And I'm like, I'm not trying to
Yeah.
be like a purist, but like there's a big discrepancy there.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that like I may tend to trend into that
Oh, yeah,
into
and
that
nobody's perfect.
category
I'm not a
sometimes.
saint. Like I'm not a saint. Like
But I am trying with what brand is this? It's called Cold Fire. Yo, the shop owner that like pitched me the new like extraction methods. So like and I've been like out of the game, so to speak, for a little bit. So like new tech, not necessarily always the hippest to, but when I go
yeah,
in to buy my stuff, I'm like, oh shit, that's cool. He's saying
a lot of people
that
listening might relate to that.
well, so that actually then we jump into the consumer brand versus product
There you go.
loyalty.
Perfect. Great
Yeah,
segue.
so I'm in there and he like, we're talking about extractions and I'm like, yeah, added terps, this and that. He goes, "Oh, no, 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 no. The new stuff that they're using actually extracts full spectrum cannabinoids and terpene retention. I was like, whoa, what? And he's just like, yeah, man, like this is getting way more high tech now, and like the cannabinoids like in extractions are actually way more improved than where they were like even just like a year or two ago. I was like, oh shit. And bro, you try these things, the flavor profile compared to like, what it was where it was like the distillate with like added terpenes,
Well, that's
after
the
the
thing is they
fact.
had to re-add the terpenes because when you're extracting it, you lose something, right? Like
Yeah, for sure.
it's
It gets
like
stripped.
exactly. It gets
And
stripped
and
or diluted or whatever.
and distillates, my equivalent comparator is like, ethanol. Like,
Yeah.
you could boil it down and ultimately you can always get just kind of like the root thing. Distillate is the ethanol of cannabis, so to speak, and then you add all the stuff back into it
Hmm.
to make it flavored certain ways
Right.
and stuff. Anyways, so yeah, good segue to our
So
cannabis consumers. Go ahead, sorry.
this is a good question for the audience.
Poll the audience.
Yeah, like let us know in the comments. Are you more loyal to brands or products and why? And it's a great question. I don't know your take, but what I
So
saw,
go ahead.
go ahead.
Well, so for me personally, when I was working in the industry, I was working with a company or an entity. I think it was a nonprofit at the time, called Clean Green Certified. And what he touted himself as being able to do, he'd come from, the USDA, I believe,
Hmm.
and basically applied all of those standards for agriculture to the cannabis industry. So he was literally driving around the country in his van certifying farms as clean green certified. And what that meant was they were using all of the USDA standardized organic growing practices. So to me, as a consumer, that then instilled a degree of confidence in
Hmm.
what I was purchasing, to your last point of saying like, I want to get the highest quality stuff that's going to have hopefully the least amount of bad stuff that I'm going to potentially be ingesting, because nobody smokes weed to have it basically be the equivalent of a cigarette. So for me, those kinds of things were what built some degree of brand loyalty. And then of course you end up having situations where brands will start to kind of taint their own reputation or product, and by way reputation, and you come to find out that the brand was actually using low grade XYZ in their processes, and thus, completely actually negated the whole clean green certification label.
While we're talking about Clean Green Certified, uh, for people that are listening that maybe don't know about Clean Green Certified, could you pull up cleangreencertified.com
Yep.
um, so that they can kind of get a little bit, and we'll pin the link in the comments uh, so that you can check out an example of brands that work. It's a global, organic certification. Uh, Read up about it. Started in 2004. And if you go to verified farms, you can see a list of all the people. So if any of those, if you're looking for local brands or global brands or whatever, you can buy those. They're clean green certified. One of the that picture, one of them looks like it's from Henry's. Henry's is on there, but
Yeah. They were
uh,
one of the first.
yeah,
And that was kind
they
of,
were the first.
yeah,
Um,
there it is.
so kudos to them.
Yeah.
But yeah, so everybody check out that link, read about it because you're gonna go, oh, I didn't even know there was this thing. And you're gonna know that while the testing is not perfect yet, there are still better levels than others. Um,
Yep.
Nothing's perfect, obviously, but there are some better testing methods. Okay, so for
So,
me, I don't care about a brand. I'm loyal to quality. And if you have a quality product that is tested. I have like my criteria of what I
mhm.
consume. So I hope your brand and product falls in that criteria of what I consume. Now that's just me. A lot of people are loyal to brands because they know it gets them a certain feeling a certain way, the quality, For example, some of my favorite flower out in California, um,
Freudian slip.
was they grew with guano, and it is a more rich fertilizer. And I was like, oh, this is really good. So I'm gonna stick with this. And they always had really good stuff. Henry's, for example, grows outdoor stuff a little bit lower in THC count, but it's very consistent and it's very outdoor grown, clean green certified. So hey, listen, I'll sacrifice 2, 3, 4, 5% of THC, which really you can't really tell the difference in that anyway,
Hmm.
for a good quality product. Um, Now, to be fair, some people don't have access to all these array of products. Like in California, you can go into a dispensary and get a drink and get a vape and get a flower. In Texas, it's like you get what you're offered, you know, which they're starting to get better stuff, but until there is like you said, a legal framework of some sort, businesses aren't going to enter legally
Hmm. Yeah.
because there's just too much capital. There's no, you know, and a lot of these things, a lot of these illegal carts and all these things, and I guess that's a good thing that you can pull up the Texas poll if you have the Texas poll, because Texas is as red as it gets. Um, but because people, and this is the irony, a long time ago, I was interviewed by the New York Times, and this is kind of, it was like, why are people migrating different places? And this speaks to that article, which is really ironic for me, that everybody here is like, oh, California, don't California my Texas. And it's like, well, if people don't move here with different ways of thinking about, let's say, cannabis, you're going to stay the current state of cannabis, right? But if
Yep.
you, I'm not saying import voters, that's not what I'm saying, but if people naturally, or, if naturally organically move places, you'll see a shift in the color. If blue people move to bluer states, they're just going to get bluer. If red people move to
Hmm.
red states, they're just going to get redder. Um, but if blue people move to a red, it'll get purple, and if red move to blue, it'll get purple. And so this speaks to that where not good. I mean, it's only 40 something percent, but that's
48.
still more than 22, which is against.
Yeah. 48% saying the state should loosen cannabis laws is a pretty, you know, appreciable number to be,
I think
putting
they said it's
forward.
up like 5% or something, and this is Texas.
Yeah. Increased by 5 percentage points since the poll question was last administered in April and supports increasing restrictions fell 8%. Hmm.
And the irony about everything happening in the world that's very extreme, all over the world, is that it kind of makes cannabis look stupid in comparison.
Oh
Like,
yeah, this is such a like almost like a non-starter for a lot of people in
right,
conversations now. The more buzzworthy subject matters are definitely, geopolitical war game situations. Well,
right.
not game. They're not games. They're,
No, they're no.
actual wars being fought on multiple fronts by, you know, typically the same group of people if you've read the tea leaves and understand how the dynamics of the situation are actually manipulated. But
Yeah.
um
Well, and the irony about this is that two of uh, the countries involved in very, very geopolitical centric things, Israel and um, Ukraine,
Ukraine
both have medical cannabis. And Ukraine did
and
it recently.
and Israel's also one of the places where some of the like most like frontier innovations in the cannabis space actually come out of, which I always found fascinating.
I would say probably 90 to 95% of the science that comes out about cannabis comes either from Ole Miss or Israel, because a
Hmm.
lot of the science tech. What are those? They were a brand, Cushy Punch. You ever had a Cushy Punch?
Yep.
Believe those were products of Israel. And then there was a product called Tikkun Olam, which is iron, the name, which is interesting, like heal the world, kind of thing.
Hmm.
You know,
Interesting.
I don't know what happened to that product. But maybe the marketing got a little crisscrossed.
BDS, BDS.
Yeah, those are my initials actually. So you can't censor this channel for just saying my initials,
That's right. That's right. That's right.
which
I'm
is
just calling for your
so
brand.
shitty.
Yeah, dude, I'm sorry. That is kind
Hold
of
on,
unfortunate.
I just want to say right there, the second paragraph, read that paragraph right there.
33%
There you go.
said hemp issue was, quote, not very important or, quote, not important, which is the second highest percentage of voters who felt that way about the issues at hand.
33%.
Yeah,
Cool.
that's a bummer. That's a bummer. But I mean, that means that 77% thought it was important.
I just like the numbers,
Oh,
33%,
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's true.
1200.
That's
You
true.
know,
That's
I
true.
don't. Anyway, we can move on. On to the
Dude,
next one.
I'm gonna have to jump here in a second because
Cool.
little ones making murmurs.
We'll hit,
Um,
we'll just do a couple quick hits.
so I did want to talk about this real fast, just because it kind of like also
Yes.
plays on the hemp situation, because that's obviously one of my supreme passions in my life at this point. Um, so, MJ Biz Daily, Trump Justice Department withdraws Biden-era cannabis research and hemp testing. So I was like, oh no, what does that mean? So Trump, DOJ moving to cancel Biden-era laws to expand cannabis research and hemp analytic testing. Essentially, what it meant for hemp was that the scope and the amount of labs that are going to be able to do testing on hemp products is very limited. Apparently, you have to actually be certified or permitted or licensed or whatever by the DEA itself to be one of the labs that can conduct the testing on hemp products. And to
Hmm.
my understanding, and I think I verified this with you earlier, like one of the main bottlenecks for the hemp industry's expansion is the testing and the regulatory infrastructure that prevents from becoming a more widely, produced agricultural crop.
Hmm.
So,
And it's which is interesting because essentially in 1937, when they did the Marijuana Tax Act, it didn't make hemp and marijuana illegal. That was the Controlled Substances Act, right? The Marijuana Tax Act basically did that. If you want to grow hemp or cannabis, you have to register with the government and pay a massive tax. And so everyone's like, well, I'm not going to do this because the market's not there. I'll just do alcohol or I'll just do whatever else, because right after 1937, war started. Um, which again, I always think about how many lives we could have stayed during World War II if we would have built our planes out of hemp, steel as opposed to regular steel, which Henry Ford proved was stronger anyway and lighter and fast. Anyway, maybe you didn't really want to save that many lives. Who knows? But it's fascinating. You're 100% right, where until a hemp processing infrastructure, testing, everything is implemented, the market's not going anywhere.
yeah, sucks. Um, I also thought this was a funny one to touch on just in terms of kind of like still thumbing the nose at the bureaucracy. Did California's biggest marijuana cultivator fool state regulators? I was like, I fucking hope so.
The answer should probably be yes.
Yeah, California's largest legal cannabis cultivator appears to have renewed dozens of state permits despite falling out of compliance with a labor-friendly licensing requirement, records show. Glass House Brands, which operates massive cultivation operations in Santa Barbara and Ventura counties in Southern California, renewed 25 cultivation permits between December 24 and March 25, according to Department of Cannabis Control records. It did so despite what appears to be a labor peace agreement that expired in October 2024, according to a document obtained via public record requests. So, whatever. Did they pull
There's
a
more to
fast
this.
one on BCC? Sure.
There's more to
Um,
this.
Go ahead.
Because if you Google Glass House ICE raids,
Right.
they were employing a lot. Like this is them kind of getting outed for a long-term operation.
Right.
Um,
That
and
was
they're
actually one
gonna
of the other articles I pulled up was about the raids, but yeah.
right, and that's a Glass House I've consumed. They're good cannabis, like decent price point, which is always like, man, I've always wondered how you, because in a small market, you're like, how are you able to price this well and it's a good quality? Well, if your labor is cheap. you know? I mean, and they're not the only ones in Mendo or any of these other, you know, Emerald Triangle cities that are employing illegal people. It's not, it's not just
Yeah,
them.
sure. I just think it's, yeah. I mean, it's the same reason that like your iPhone isn't $15,000 when you go to buy it. Like, there's a reason that these products can remain at the price point that they are, is because the labor used to get them to the point where they are a finished product and can go to market. You know, the
Hmm.
the labor costs were pennies on the dollar, whereas if
Hmm.
it were made with like, good working conditions or fair wages or anything of those sorts, that thing would be uh,
It's, you know,
unfathomably expensive.
maybe for next time we'll look at how the inflation or tariffs have affected the cannabis industry because I don't think it really, I might be wrong, but I don't think it has as much as other sectors because it was a non-existent thing.
Mm, I honestly haven't looked into that much
I'm
myself.
going to look into that. I'd be interested to know the drawdown or effect the cannabis industry versus every other industry, like alcohol, for example.
Sure.
Um, just because, if there's no international trade with it to be affected, then what would it matter? Everything's domestic for cannabis.
Yep. Speaking of domestic, when his name
Yeah, there
popped,
you go.
when his name popped up, I was like, wait, what? Is this the same Waltz? Oh yeah. Governor Waltz signs compact or cannabis compact with Millie Lax Band of Ojibwe. I was like, is that the, yes, it is, the former vice president candidate. Uh, signs, and like, again, do you agree with these people on every front? No, but when they do something
Doesn't
good, should
matter.
you acknowledge it? Sure. I think this example of, okay, so what we know, the second tribal state cannabis compact signed. According to the Office of Cannabis Management, Governor Walz signed a cannabis compact with the Mille Lacs Band of Ojibwe. The compact outlines how the state and Mille Lacs Band of Ojibwe can regulate cannabis together. OCM says the agreement will soon open the door for partnership opportunities between the tribal nation and state licensed cannabis business owners. I just want to stop there and say I'm in full support of things like this because this is literally one of those things where it's like, do we have to pay reparations? Uh, think what you want about that, but when you have policies that give, some sort of recompense to people and cultures that have been so catastrophically slaughtered, oppressed, herded into these, areas called reservations that are, for all intents and purposes, in a lot of instances, unlivable conditions for most people. Like, this sort of thing is a good thing. So I just
Mhm.
wanted to like go on record and say like, yay, Governor Waltz for doing something good.
Yeah, and imagine like how you feel right now. Massively could have been expanded had he did this 6 to 12 months ago when he
When
was
he was running,
running for president and vice
a million
president.
percent, a million percent.
They'd go,
Absolutely.
wait, he plans on doing this. Oh,
Dude, this
okay.
this
That's
this
actually a
alone,
policy
this
difference.
this alone could have garnered a swing, like a huge swing in public perception and probably voter behaviors in that election just with
I
this
mean,
for a lot of people.
Minnesota's an important, every state's an important state, but Minnesota's an important election state, especially if it's your home state. And I
Yep.
have, like, there's no way they just did this deal like in the last few weeks. This has been in the works. And so that's what, like, why
It's
now? Like,
September
yes,
10th.
great. Congratulations. I'm glad for any sort of progress at all, period, any form. I'm also not going to be just content with breadcrumbs, you know,
Yeah.
where it's like, you could have done this. I know this, you know this, but why doesn't the blue team and a lot of people know they are slow walk everybody, red and blue, they're slow walking whatever their issue is. Yeah, they're working on it, but they're slow walking it to their speed and preferred timeline. Like it has
Yep.
nothing to do with us. As people still suffer, as people still die of opioids, there is no, national emergency, all hands on deck. It's the same during the 2019 stuff. If you truly, and I say this to every doctor, a family of doctors, if you truly are looking for any remedy to said problem, you try things that you normally wouldn't try. and you take input from everywhere and go, listen, I may not think that'll work, but we haven't tried that yet. So
Yep.
by process of elimination, we have to try it. And they're just why I don't know why cannabis along okay, we haven't tried it yet, but we also have data to support that it does help. So you're like,
Hmm.
okay, now since there's no reason, okay, now I know you're just holding us back. It's
Well,
just
but Sanjay Gupta finally said that it was a good thing. So
right. I'm
thus,
glad he is the authority.
yeah, exactly. Just like Bill Gates on vaccines. Sorry,
Or Mr.
bad.
Fauci.
Yeah, AZT
Which
proponent extraordinaire.
where's I just gotta ask where he's been. Like why isn't he
He,
going around kind of helping people?
yeah, he's probably got a book or another documentary series that's gonna tank.
Anyway, please stop
The la
worshiping news people.
Yeah, yeah, or any false idols. The last thing I wanted to bring up, just as a shout out to my home state, Joint Cannabis Commission holds first meeting amid push for regulated market.
Pun
I just have to
intended.
say that literally, Virginia has been working on getting uh, an actual cannabis industry since before I moved to California. So this is like 2012. I was talking to people in the state legislature about the state's industry coming to fruition in the course of, they said it was could probably be a short-term timeline, but clearly we are in 2025 and it still hasn't gotten its shit together. But anyways, you could read this if you want to. It's just a little, aside about the market in Virginia. Anyways,
Well, also Virginia, the Medical College of Virginia is where they did that 1979 study on
yep,
mice.
right,
So, which is fascinating that that's the one getting the movement now. And Virginia also legalized, they decriminalized a long time ago, then legalized, but yet they still have not opened dispensaries.
right.
Be
So like if you get caught with it, it's not as bad of a punishment anymore, but like it's also not like, hey, where'd you get that? They're not necessarily hunting for the fish that are sustaining the industry, so to speak, but they're
so
not also facilitating it.
the most updated, the House and the Senate of Virginia passed a bill to allow legal recreational sales to commence on May 1st, 2025, with a tax rate of 11.6%. Governor Glenn Youngkin vetoed the bill, saying it endangers Virginia's health and safety. Um, so,
Right.
you know, you're just having a battle of power in Virginia right now.
And
And
alcohol and tobacco are going to be, things that make you healthy.
yeah, well, and Virginia is a big opioid state too. So,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah. Sadly.
that's also why they don't. If you lose Virginia, West Virginia, and those blue collar states that are all pilled up, the pharmaceutical sales go bye bye.
Thank God. Hopefully that day
Thank
comes sooner
God,
rather than later.
right? So that's
But
that's the end goal. That's the end message of this is end pharmaceutical sales and turn them into something clean, green, certified. Um,
amen.
but check out all the links in the comments section. Let us know if you're loyal to brands, products, or quality, and anything else you want to know. And check out Phillip James Latham's channel. Are you doing philosophies or coming
It's
up?
coming. I promise. This
So
is a
keep
lot
watching this
like
channel. He'll just be on this
He,
channel. Just
I'm gonna keep coming back. Hopefully more in the coming weeks and
we
months
will, we
because
will. And then,
there's
I got into a new place, so the studio setup's going to look different here soon. The CQ logos, all that stuff is gone. Um, but everybody, please like, subscribe, share with your friends, and until next time, stay blessed and don't forget to tip your bud tenders.
peace.